Hi, and welcome to our new video. This is the Karcher FC3 cordless. We have reviewed this hard floor cleaner for you, and you'll find out everything you need to know in this video. So just stay tuned. Let's get started with Karcher's FC3. Before we get to the practical test, we'll first give you an overview of the product in our features and technology section. The FC3 is a hard floor cleaner, which can be used on various floor types, such as tiles, laminate, vinyl, and so on. However, to avoid any nasty surprises, you should make sure that the floor is sealed and water-resistant. The device relies on a lithium-ion battery as its power source, which offers a fairly short runtime of approximately 20 minutes. Nevertheless, the charging time of 4 hours is not too long compared to other devices, so you can quickly recharge the battery. In addition, the battery status can be monitored via a 3-staged LED display. As far as the scope of delivery is concerned, the FC3 comes with some functional equipment, but leaves out a lot of the bells and whistles. The focus is on the appliance itself, of course. It comes with a set of cleaning rollers and 2 tanks, which are also included. Remo will show us exactly where to find all of this later on. Additionally, there is also the parking station, a trial bottle of cleaning solution, the obligatory power supply, and some paperwork on top. Otherwise, it is important to know that the FC3 does not have a parking position. This means that it cannot stand on its own and must therefore be leaned against a wall or placed in its station if you want to take a break. By the way, you can find the link to the Karcher FC3 below the video in the description. And if the video was helpful to you, please leave us a like and subscribe to our channel. So now I'm sitting here at the table with the FC3 hard floor cleaner and would like to clarify 2 important questions. The first question is, what can a hard floor cleaner do? Well, we definitely need to differentiate here. A hard floor cleaner is one thing. A wet and dry vacuum cleaner is the other. This is often confused. A wet and dry vacuum cleaner is designed to pick up coarse dirt. A hard floor cleaner, on the other hand, is more like an electric mop, which is used for less challenging messes. For example, in the fall and winter season, you come home, it was wet outside, you have mud sticking to your feet, and you just spread it all around your entrance area at home. Just open the cupboard and get the FC3, switch it on, go over it, and the hard floor cleaner picks it up. That's exactly what the appliances are made for, but not for much more. And the second question is, how does such a device actually work? Basically, hard floor cleaners all work in the same way, namely with a 2-tank system. The fresh water tank is simply removed from the back. You can then fill it up with fresh water, put the tank back into the appliance, click it into place, and start the appliance. Fresh water is now taken from the tank, fed down to the cleaning rollers, and the dirt is then simply picked up from the floor. The water and dirt are then fed into the dirty water tank. You can empty it in the sink or toilet when the tank is full. You put the tank back in, put the lid on, check if you need to refill your fresh water tank, and you can get back to work. Yes, that sounds pretty good and all, but does the system deliver what it promises? We took a very close look at this in our upcoming practical test. Well, let's see what this thing can do. Let's start with the first part of our practical test, namely the cleaning performance. We deliberately want to start with the same test that we also carried out with the wet and dry vacuum cleaners. Of course, we are aware that the FC3 does not vacuum and probably won't pass this test. Nevertheless, we want to proceed in this way in order to explore the limits of the FC3 and see how far you can go with the appliance. So then, let's start with level 1, dry and liquid dirt. On the right, we see cappuccino powder, and on the left, we have some sugar beads. As you can see, the powder is more or less no problem after going over it once or twice. Larger pieces of dirt, such as the sugar beads on the other hand, are not picked up so easily. They are shot forward by the rollers. However, if you keep at it, you will manage to pick up most of the pearls over time. So it's basically doable. A load of juice on the floor suits the FC3 better. Just go over it a few times and that's it. The bottom line is level 1, partially clear. Now let's combine dry and liquid dirt and move on to level 2, viscous dirt. Yogurt, ketchup, and applesauce are a little more difficult to pick up. Nevertheless, the FC3 does surprisingly well here. You can see how a streak of dirt remains in the middle between the rollers. But with a few more corrective strokes, it's history. So, level 2, clear. Now it gets interesting. Level 3, wet coarse dirt, liquid with solid components. In our case, cornflakes with milk. This is a big challenge, even for some wet and dry vacuum cleaners. And in fact, the FC3 really does reach its limits here. Admittedly, considering its price point and design, the FC3 has already picked up quite a bit here. But on the whole, you can just see how the roller pulls the flakes apart and smears them around the room. Even going over it several times doesn't help too much after a certain point. If you take off the cover, you can also see that the FC3 is not made for this type of dirt. You can clearly see that although coarse dirt is picked up, it is not properly transported into the tank. This was also the case with viscous dirt, and is mainly due to the fact that the FC3 does not vacuum. It can be pretty difficult to wipe everything clean without any suction power to pull the dirt into the tank. The dirt is simply wiped off in front of the tank opening and then builds up there. As a result, we unfortunately have to conclude Level 3 failed. Of course, we don't want to be unjust, and after this borderline experience, we will now adapt the test more closely to the target area of the FC3. This target area is clearly more geared towards everyday dirt, which is usually tackled with a mop and bucket. Let's start here with our first point: mud prints. Remo had already described this case before. Someone comes in with dirty shoes and leaves some footprints in the hallway. And as you can see, this is where the FC3 is able to shine. Go over it once or twice and that's it. Mud prints. Clear. Another everyday occurrence for us is dried up dirt. We have simulated this for you with a ketchup stain that we have left to dry. The result? If you go over it slowly and, if necessary, stay on the stain briefly so that the roller can do its job, then it's done quickly. With this in mind, dried stains. Clear. And now for the king of everyday messes, Level 3. A bit of it all. A little bit of everything. So a little ketchup here, a little yogurt there, something powdery in between, a few cookie crumbs and some fluffy stuff. Especially with children, it can quickly look like this or something similar under the dining table. And as you can see, ketchup, yogurt, and also the powder are relatively easy to pick up in such small quantities. Larger cookie crumbs and some fluff, on the other hand, remain at least partially in place, or are shot backwards out of the picture by the roller. So the bottom line is, Level 3, partially clear. This test makes it clear that the FC3 is primarily an electric mop rather than a vacuum cleaner. In any case, you should not expect the performance of a wet and dry vacuum cleaner, which is supposed to turn mopping and vacuuming into a single step. Instead, you get what's promised, namely, a so-called hard floor cleaner, which can't save you from having to pre-vacuum, but at least combines a mop and bucket into one appliance. The same applies to other surfaces, such as tiles. Most of it works, but larger crumbs and some fluff remain to be a problem. What can be said, however, is that grout cleaning works much better than with wet and dry vacuum cleaners. The roller lies directly on the floor and is therefore able to roll into the joints. As a result, the crevices are well cleaned, which of course makes mopping such floors more convenient. And as a reminder, you can find the link to the Karcher FC3 under this video in the description. And if the video was helpful to you, please leave us a like and subscribe to our channel. In terms of handling, the FC3 is one of the better appliances. Only the drive mechanism is a double-edged sword in our opinion. The appliance really pulls you forward. The advantage of this is that the appliance runs more smoothly as long as you guide it straight ahead. What's also interesting is that the floor is properly scrubbed if you pull the appliance back or hold it in one place. This is very useful for stubborn stains, as you can see from the dried ketchup stain. However, if you want to work around yourself and keep moving back and forth, the big disadvantage is that it can get tiresome over time, similar to a dog on a leash that you pull back against its will. Of course, this is not quite as nice. In general, however, the maneuverability of the device is great and can be moved easily in the end. This is partly due to its low weight of just 2.4 kilograms, and because of the fact that the FC3 glides over the ground like a hovercraft. You can even let the device glide to the left and right, away from the direction of the rollers. This makes steering the device even easier. There are also no problems with the FC3 when it comes to its operation. It only has a single button for on and off. Although there could be one or two more functions, we are still satisfied with the basic design in the end. The FC3 is one of the louder appliances in our test. At 73 to 77 decibels, it can't really differentiate itself from other competitors. Getting under furniture is generally no problem with the FC3. The base of the appliance is approximately 6 to 7 centimeters high, so it should normally fit under a couch or bed. What you should know, however, the fact that the base fits underneath does not mean that you can get underneath it completely. Above a certain angle of inclination, the rollers lift off and can no longer clean properly. For this reason, even with a relatively high-hanging cupboard, it can be problematic to reach the back of the wall. What is an issue with both hard floor cleaners and wet and dry vacuum cleaners is the extent to which they can clean the edges. Our test with cappuccino powder showed that the Karcher appliances are superior to the wet and dry vacuum cleaners in this respect. Due to the system, the Karcher rollers reach right up to the wall and can therefore work right into the joint. In the end, good results are achieved when cleaning the edges overall. The situation is different if we use something sticky like ketchup instead of cappuccino powder. The roller can work right into the joint, and after a few strokes it is reasonably clean, but some ketchup residue is still visible in the corner. You should also be careful not to get too close to the wall. If dirt has accumulated on the edge of the roller, it is often smeared on the wall. Nevertheless, we have a better result than with the wet and dry vacuum cleaners, which generally don't even get that far. What is a bit annoying when working with the FC3 is that you have to empty the dirty water tank relatively often. It should be noted that the FC3 has the smallest dirty water tank in our test with a capacity of 140 milliliters. However, assuming that the appliance is used for its intended purpose, this basically is still sufficient in the end. It's just a shame that the FC3 doesn't have a float and you have to check the tank yourself. To ensure that the FC3 can do its job for as long as possible, it is of course important to clean it regularly. This is particularly important for this type of appliance, as inadequate cleaning can also lead to odors and mold. To make things as easy as possible, place the cleaner on the parking station first. Here you can then remove all the parts that need to be cleaned. First remove the cover and then grab the dirty water tank and the cleaning rollers. As the appliance does not have a self-cleaning function, everything is quite dirty, as you can clearly see from the rollers, for example. You can see a really thick strip of ketchup that didn't make it into the tank. Before you finish, don't forget the cover, and then it's off to the sink with the parts. First open the dirty water tank and empty it. As this appliance will mainly have liquid in it, you can do this at the sink. If there is some coarser dirt in there, you can of course also dump it all into the toilet. Then rinse the tank under running water and take care of the cover for the base of the appliance. Finally, it's time to clean the rollers. First remove the coarse dirt and then squeeze out as much dirt as possible from the roller. If this is not enough, you can also put the rollers in the washing machine at 60 degrees Celsius. Then place them on the knobs provided on the parking station to dry properly. Let's come to the conclusion. With the Karcher FC3 cordless, you get a hard floor cleaner from the affordable price range that performs well in terms of hard floor cleaning. Yes, it's true. The appliance quickly reaches its limits with the really nasty stuff. But to be fair, the FC3 was not made for those kinds of applications. Instead, we have an electric mop that is intended to replace a mop and bucket. And, in our opinion, it does this very well considering its price point. So if you are looking for top performance, this appliance will obviously not make you happy. In that case, take a closer look at the Karcher FC7 or the Tenneco wet and dry vacuum cleaners. If you are more interested in everyday cleaning on the other hand, and want to tackle moderate levels of dirt, the Karcher FC3 is an affordable alternative. So, we reviewed this hard floor cleaner for you. If you like it, then take a look at the video description below. There you can find all the links. Otherwise, I'd be delighted if you'd stay tuned. Our end card will follow with a few interesting video suggestions.